Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the Governor of the Bank of Canada confirmed getting rid of the carbon tax will reduce inflation. This is the same carbon tax that's driven up the cost on gas, groceries, and home heating. This is the same carbon tax that hasn't helped the Liberals meet a single emission reduction target. The more they keep charging for it, the more emissions keep going up. So why won't the Liberals stop forcing their failed carbon tax scheme on Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the Governor of the Bank of Canada estimated that the price on pollution would add marginally to the impact on inflation, perhaps 0.1%, Mr. Speaker. That's 1 cent for every $10. On the other hand, Mr. Speaker, according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, 8 out of 10 families will get more money back than they pay at the pumps. This helps with affordability and inflation, Mr. Speaker. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the opposition wants to take this climate action incentive away.
Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's a job well failed by this government. They haven't been able to fix the environment or the economy. They keep making things worse, driving more families into food banks. 1.5 million Canadians having to use food banks. 1 out of 5 Canadians having to skip meals. This is their plan. They don't have an environmental plan. It's a tax plan. It's not working. When will they axe the tax and give Canadians a break?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
Mr. Speaker, 450,000 children have been lifted out of poverty since we took office in 2015. Mr. Speaker, we have brought in early learning and childcare agreements across the country, and by the end of this year, families from coast to coast to coast will receive reduced childcare fees by up to 50%. Mr. Speaker, we have several measures that we have put forward, whether it's the Canada Dental Benefit, the Canada Child Benefit, the Canada Rental Benefit, that have seriously helped families in need. We know these are tough times, Mr. Speaker. We're there for families. We just don't understand why Conservatives are not. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Under these Liberals, credit card use is the highest in Canadian history. Food bank usage, the highest in Canadian history. Many Canadians are just $200 away from insolvency. Among 38 rich countries, Canada ranks 35th in teen mental health and suicide. It appears these Liberals have forgotten who they work for. Perhaps they should stop listening to themselves and start listening to Canadians who are struggling to survive. Will the Liberals show compassion and leadership and stop forcing their failed carbon tax on Canadian families?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
Mr. Speaker, I really do believe it's the Conservatives that need to look within and find some compassion, because they have voted against measure after measure that has been there to support our lowest income Canadians and families and seniors that have been struggling. In fact, 450,000 children have been lifted out of poverty. We know there's more work to do, Mr. Speaker, but that's why in the fall economic statement we also enhanced the Canada's Workers' Benefit. It's why we doubled the GST tax credit for the next 6 months, because we know these are difficult times, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have every opportunity to be there to support Canadians alongside us. They have just chosen not to. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Peterborough-Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, what's sad is that Christmas is just 31 days away. And instead of worrying about buying Christmas presents, Canadians are trying to figure out how they're going to pay for their home heating, their propane bill that they rely on, that has went from $4,000 to $12,000. That is triple the cost, Mr. Speaker. So again, I will ask, is there any leadership, any ability to listen to Canadians who are struggling to survive? This is not a luxury. This is a necessity. Axe the tax and face the facts.
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pretty sure that the Conservatives don't want to face the facts of their disastrous time in government for almost 10 years. 2 million fewer people are out of poverty, including 400,000 senior women. We raised almost 1 million kids out of poverty, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, do you hear what I hear in the spirit of Christmas? I'm not entirely sure which is the real Conservative Party on the other side. Those who are asking us to spend more, or those who are asking us to spend less? Fortunately, Mr. Speaker, I got the answer. It's the fall economic statement. Invest in those Canadians who need it the most, grow the economy, and position for a great future for Canada.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. not knowing how to pay for groceries at the end of the week, or how to pay the heating bill, being a student who has to sleep in a shelter, or a worker who needs to go to food banks, where 1.5 million Canadians have had to turn in a single month. Can this Liberal government look Canadians in the eye and tell them sincerely that the carbon tax is good for them? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, with my hand on my heart, I can say that every time the Conservatives have had a chance to vote to reduce taxes, they always voted against it. With 10 years in power, they made Canadians poorer. Mr. Speaker, we will be eliminating interest on student loans. We will help people buy a house. We will be doubling the GST credit. The Conservatives have no plan except for crypto, but we do. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Echemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the carbon tax just makes Canadians poorer, but it doesn't work. The Liberals know that Canadians are suffering due to inflation, but the government stubbornly continues to want to increase the carbon tax. Like the leader of my party, like all Conservative members in this place, will this government stop with its plan to increase taxes on Canadians, yes or no? The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives on the one hand put their hand on their heart to say they care about Canadians, but they have scissors in the other hand, scissors to cut with, because they think we're investing too much in Canadians. The Conservatives should be more consistent. They are the party of cuts and austerity. They want to make cuts in services for seniors, youth, childcare. They should have the courage to come out and say so, Mr. Speaker.
Even the Governor of the Bank of Canada said yesterday that this government has been spending too much for too long. Even the Parliamentary Budget Officer said that Albertans will spend $2,000 more on the carbon tax than they will get back in rebates. So when will this government do the right thing and cancel their plan to triple the tax on gas, groceries and home heating?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
And as usual, the Conservatives are spreading misinformation. And let's look at the Conservative record for a moment, Mr. Speaker. They cut $350 million from the environment and climate change budget. They withdrew from the Kyoto Accord. And, Mr. Speaker, for 10 long years, they did absolutely nothing on climate change. And for that, Mr. Speaker, at all the international meetings they went to, they won Fossil of the Day Award, the Fossil of the Year Award. And, Mr. Speaker, they won the granddaddy of them all in 2013, the Lifetime Unachievement Fossil Award.
Inflation is stuck at 40-year highs, and the cost of groceries is up 11%. Rural Manitoba seniors like Suzanne are skipping meals so often that she's actually not eating 2 or 3 days each week. She's wearing her winter jacket in her home. She doesn't have to turn up her heat. And Suzanne is struggling to put gas in her car to drive an hour and a half to Winnipeg to see her doctor. So when will these Liberals stop hurting our seniors and axe the carbon tax increase on heating and eating?
The Honourable Minister for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to look at the facts. And the fact is, Mr. Speaker, when the Conservative Party was in power, their plan for seniors was to raise the age of retirement to 67, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the fact is the first thing that we did, we reversed that back to 65. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, the party opposite opposed every single measure that we put forward to support seniors, including the increase to the guaranteed income supplement, including increase to the old age security by 10% for those 75 and over, including our enhancements to the CPP, Mr. Speaker. I won't take any lessons from the party opposite in supporting seniors. We're going to continue to be here for them.
The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
Mr. Speaker, if you want to talk about just the facts, here's some facts. For 7 years, taxes have gone up on all Canadians. For 7 years, emissions have gone up. We had a better record on emissions than this government ever has. And those are the facts. Here's some more facts. 1.5 million Canadians rely on food banks to put food on their tables. Universities are sending out fundraising letters to let kids eat before they go to bed now at our universities in Canada. This is the Canada these Liberals have made. So when will they get it together and stop forcing their carbon tax, their failed carbon tax, on all Canadians?
The Honourable Minister. Minister.
I am so delighted to get this opportunity right now to be able to tell a family of 4 in Newfoundland and Labrador that they will be getting $1,312 in their bank account every year, 4 times a year, cash in the bank, $328 in July, next July, $328 in October, just when they're getting ready for the winter, again in January, again in April. I welcome another question from the other side so I can talk about how we are bringing more money back into the hands of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, Mr. Speaker.